local, lethal, and loud. This is the Scooter McGee Show on News Talk 1310 KFKA.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
Okay, good evening and welcome back, Gotham. Hour 2, here we go, live from the CRP 4x4 studios. We'll get to take out the trash news headlines later tonight. Okay, well, patient. I'll reward you with Greeley Stampede tickets. Stampede, of course, kicks off a week from today. June 22nd, Island Grove Regional Park will be ground zero. We have a new police chief to break in and new members of the Stampede committee, so we'll see you out there. In the meantime, those tickets, of course, compliments of Gould Parts. Now, I'd invite you to call into the Greeley Westside Liquor Hotline, but we have phone lines are tangled up now. Dave's with us in San Francisco on hold for a question with Joshua Card. Once we get through that, we missed before that break in the 47 the last hour. We're standing by to upload the video of the last hour in theory to YouTube. But the computers, for some reason, are frozen at 43% uploading. Normally it takes about 90 seconds, so we'll have to redo this. Anyway, Joshua Card's joining us. We're going to get to Dave in San Francisco. As you hear calls drop off, jump back on the lines, 877-353-1310. Father's Day weekend, of course. Throwing a party, need booze delivered, run out of booze. Call 970-353-0036. I got 19 numbers in my head right now. All right? So, fair enough. Let's go back to the phones. Josh, you're there.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, let's go right to Dave in San Francisco before we go to Lane in Washington. Dave, welcome back. Sorry I cut you when we went to the break in the commercial. I asked if we got through it, but you had already dropped the call.
Oh, sure, no trouble.
No, welcome back.
Scooter. Yeah, and for your guest, Josh, it's not like I, disagree vehemently with you. What it is I don't trust Trump at all for his negotiating abilities. I see him as a con artist. He's BSing the world, but he's actually BSing it he's part of the neocon agenda, and that his whole, I don't know if you caught, about a week or so ago, Bolton got caught with the expression that Korea was going to be used as the Libya model. And if you remember, what we did with Gaddafi was we played nice with him for a while, and then all of a sudden we came in with a coup. And not only did he die, but he died a horrible, grisly death that Hillary was laughing about. And they're all playing the game. Whether it's Hillary or Trump versus the neocons versus, they're not versus. They're all pals with each other. And I'm wondering, are you, Josh or Scooter, are you familiar with Project Censored, the 10 best censored stories of the year? It's been around for years.
Yeah, Josh, are you?
No, I'm not.
I am.
Unfortunately. Okay.
Well, yeah, they're big supporters of the 9/11 Truth movement, and but they've been around for 40 years or maybe longer.
A little longer, yeah.
Yeah, and 2 years ago, I think it was the 2017 Project Censored, the number 5 issue was that refugees were going to lose their citizenship if they ended up in a work camp. So refugee camps then end up with, major corporations in the world set up factories in refugee camps. And if you end up working for one of these corporations, then you are officially employed and you have no diplomatic status and you have no refugee status. You are all of a sudden an employee of a sort of a neutral zone of corporations. And that fits with this whole catch-22 kind of world where a citizen is no longer a citizen if they end up working in a sweatshop. And so you start looking at Trump's new policy about rounding up parents, rounding up kids, disappearing kids, private corporations, running prisons and ICE detention camps. So if you just look at the structure of Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen and whatnot, these were corporate work camps that were identical. They found the phone directory for Auschwitz, if I remember right. They had IBM's phone number in it, as well as hundreds of other corporations. That place was so big, it was 49 square miles, just one camp, the death camp at Auschwitz. And it was the corporate state, that each of these major corporations in Germany had sweatshops that they could round people up and make them work as slaves. And the people nearby didn't have a clue, because the place was so huge that 49 square miles, of course they couldn't smell the burning flesh, because it was 5 miles away or something. So just this, that's my basic principle on Trump and his negotiating abilities. He's setting it up so that we're going to lose more civil rights, and that the people that get rounded up end up in sort of slave camps.
Josh?
Well, I'm not in a position to necessarily fully agree or fully disagree with you. I will say that I can meet you halfway based on today. Like when I called in, I told Scooter, and I had a lot of info and looking over a lot of articles. I find no reason to be very, very optimistic about this, because when I go back to the give versus the get, we just don't. I don't see it. I don't see it. Now, granted, this was something that maybe it's stalling to, it's a stall tactic to something else. But in a point where I do agree with you, yeah, I think this is a setup for something, and I don't think it's good.
Sure.
And Scooter and I have talked about this before. Like as I said, when all this went down, we talked about a setup, whether it's to make President Trump look bad, whether Scooter mentioned this was a setup for a false flag. There are many possibilities, and it just doesn't smell right. Like Scooter said, it's a gut feeling. You can't really throw the ironclad proof out there, but this is a gut feeling that this is a bad deal.
Sure.
And how this transpired, it goes back to my original questions. What brought this summit to, what brought it together? And I also think that there's been some shuttle diplomacy with Kim in Russia, with Kim in China, and that's something we haven't covered yet tonight. China, are they a big winner in this? Well, if Trump has publicly declared that he'd like to bring troops home, then they are a big winner, because that leaves the door open for Taiwan in 2020 with the absence of troops here in East Asia. But with what you're saying, it really, these events really don't matter if it's all a setup and an act anyway.
Sure.
What I want to know is who's pulling these strings? Who are the powers behind the cloak that are pulling these strings?
Well, if you remember the expression, the corporate state, that was Mussolini and Rocco's treatise on the corporate state. And what the idea was behind it was that monopolies would sit at the round table of government, and that the people could still elect a president, but the president would have to bargain against monopolies. It's not as if the competition of dairy or the competition of trucking or railroads or whatnot would be able to keep these monopolies down. There would be no more competition other than the president versus the round table of monopolies sitting at a table. And the people have a choice of electing somebody clever, and the monopolies don't want somebody clever at the table. They want an idiot, and especially a vain idiot who will give away the store. So, you start looking at the monopolies want to control the value of the currency, but they don't want to take responsibility for the currency. They'll intentionally shutter, cause the currency to rise and fall to their advantage. If you remember, Scooter may be old enough to remember when the peso, there were 8.5 to the dollar.
Yep.
16 to the and a half to the dollar, and there was a point, if I remember right, it was the end of Jimmy Carter, early Reagan, where it was 30,000 to the dollar, and the Mexicans have never recovered from when it was 30,000 to the dollar, and it's if you were stuck at minimum wage, you'd have to have a raise by 28,000 times in order to break even, and most people are lucky to get 15 times in the course of 40 years. So it's preposterous to imagine that these guys don't intentionally shutter the economy so that, or shutter the currency fluctuations so that they can get minerals cheap, they can get commerce across the borders cheap, they can buy low and sell high based upon making the currency shutter. And there's a book that came out a couple of years ago about economic hitmen. I think it was I was an economic hitman.
Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
That's it. And the guy basically describes the whole scenario where they'll force diplomacy to look like it's a setup. In fact, your question a minute ago, where whether you're not sure if it's right or not. You remember Pompeo, after Trump settled with Kim, and then I think he was on his way home, Pompeo said, we've had people in the background working on this for years. So no, it was all a setup. It was completely a setup. They were doing backdoor negotiating for years.
For years.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, we're 17 after. Did we get through your point of contention?
Yeah, you're fine. Thanks.
Awesome. No, thanks for the call. 877-353-1310. Let's just go take a quick commercial break. Let's just do a quick 90-second break. We're coming right back with Joshua Card, and now enter the picture. Lane Smith is going to be joining in on the discussion. Questions, comments, or concern, 877-353-1310. We'll be back.
So you think the Pawn Stars are in Vegas, huh? Have you been to City National Pawn? 3301 West 10th Street in Greeley, and you're the Pawn Star. With great deals on commercial and industrial tools, electronics, smartphones, laptops, and fine jewelry, so many great deals and a constantly changing inventory guarantee you get the best deal in town at City National Pawn. Need quick cash fast? City National Pawn has got you covered there too. Monday through Friday and Saturdays, remember, you're the Pawn Star at City National Pawn, 3301 West 10th Street in Greeley.
What may be junk to you just might be another man's treasure. From stamps, sports memorabilia, silverware, or old jewelry, what may be junk to you just might be another man's treasures. Located at 2002 9th Street in Greeley, Another Man's Treasures can take these old items and convert them into cold, hard cash. Located at 2002 9th Street, remember, another man's treasure.
Matt Rivette started in real estate just in time for the bottom to fall out of the market, and it turns out it was a good time to start. From day one, Matt Rivette had to do it right. Serve the client. Turn for sale into sold. 32 years later, we know market conditions will change, but Matt Rivette's commitment to you won't. This is a good time to get to know Matt Rivette at Pro Realty. List your commercial, income, or residential property with Matt Rivette. Call Matt Rivette at 970-356-1234 or go to ProRealtyHomes.com.
Last time on the Hull Show.
It's my brewing poll question of the day. How many wins is it going to take for Vance Joseph to secure his job next season? Some of you are saying playoffs or bust. Some are more of the mindset that it's okay, it's 8 or 9. It's a lot of pressure on this guy, but it's also going to be tough because there's a lot of pressure on this entire team. I mean, your quarterback position is uncertain, and that's also why I thought Vance Joseph kind of got a bad rap. I was shocked they didn't fire him.
This has been the Hull Show replay. For more, tune in weekdays from 11 to 1 on 1310 KFKA.
Well, I'm glad to hear Chris is okay. What's the condition of his car?
It can be fixed. I'm just waiting to hear from my insurance adjuster as to where.
We'll take it over to Auto Collision Specialists. They've repaired my cars for years.
I wanted to, but my adjuster says I'll have to pay additional costs out of my own pocket to have it repaired at Auto Collision Specialists.
Stop.
You pay your insurance premiums in good faith every month with the expectation that if you have an accident, your insurance company will pay what's necessary to repair your car correctly. In many cases, that's not what happens. Scare tactics like threatening to make you pay out of pocket or not warranting the work are tricks that will not be tolerated at auto collision specialists. You can rest assured we have your best interests at heart and will do everything in our power to make sure your insurance company fulfills its commitment to you. Remember, insurance companies don't fix cars. We do.
Auto collision specialists will take care of that.
Cutting edge commentary from the edge of reality. The Scooter McGee Show is back on News Talk 1310 KFKA.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Hi, I'm Lauren Weinstein, and you're listening to Scooter McGee on KFKA News Talk 1310.
Okay, good evening and welcome back, Gotham. Metropolis, Emerald City, Xanadu, Babylon, and the ISS and the rest of you. I am Scooter McGee. Find me on the World Wide Web, 1310kfk.com. We got an open line, 877-353-1310. Joining us back on the phone, Joshua Card, now in South Korea. Welcome back, Josh.
I tell you, let's call it Dave. He's way ahead of me. He's full of information that I'm just simply not prepared to comment on. Maybe another time. I'm just trying to stick with the narrative of what's going on here from the eyes of Korea.
Fair enough. And bringing in another perspective, I want to welcome now to the show Lane Smith. He's joining us from Washington. Welcome to the show, Lane. Thanks for holding. Thanks for holding, brother. Sorry about that.
I really didn't realize that you actually, beamed your program out from Area 51. But
well, somebody has to.
But let me say two things about the the meeting in Singapore. First of all, it was like 5 hours. So to expect 70 years of problems to be solved in 5 hours was never realistic. When you and I talked before, what we said before, the best you could expect out of this would be an end to the Korean War. And actually, he got more than that. He got the end of the Korean War plus the remains.
The remains
being sent back. I mean, that's one thing already that everybody didn't expect. And the second thing is that we're going forward from here. There's going to be, there's possibilities going forward here that never were before. The world is actually celebrating this as, a couple of people nominated for a cotton-picking Nobel Peace Prize, which might be deserved in this case, unlike what happened with Obama. He went in there and did this, and everybody is giving him a hard time about the fact he didn't solve everything in 5 hours. Give me a break. When you and I talked before, what I said was the best we could hope out of this is a platform to go forward from here.
Josh?
And this is what we have.
Your thoughts? He brings up a very valid point. And I agreed at the time on that. We can only hope that they just get to the table. And even if all we get is a photo op. But I would certainly concede with Lane that along with the remains, the end of the conflict, and a chance at moving forward. But still, I'm very much of the Reagan school under Gorbachev. Trust but verify.
No, that's true.
The thing is, they have. We don't know at this point that they're not going to do that.
We don't.
Oh no, we don't. All we know is that we now have a chance to negotiate that, where we never had a chance to negotiate that before. This is still a positive step. To go from 0 to 60, you still got to go through all the numbers in between. And we're trying, we're looking at the end product saying, okay, we want to have, complete agreement by everybody about everything like this. When this is the first meeting from people that have been at war and have said horrible things about each other for years or, in Trump's case, for months. And now we have a possibility of going forward with a plan. This is a big improvement over what we had before. And unfortunately, local media here doesn't see it that way. He didn't go there and negotiate in 5 hours the end of 70 years of animosity. And this stuff just drives me crazy.
Josh?
I'm going to have to. I understand Lane's point of view, and I do agree with him that this can lead to better things. However, one thing I do have to say, this summit did not end the Korean War. I didn't see anything in writing that said the Korean War is over. The armistice is over. I saw nothing that publicly stated that. There is nothing signed.
I have yet to see that too, and with the anniversary of the seizure of Pyongyang and the establishment of the parallel there, I thought on that anniversary or this week that they would have done that, and I've yet to see it.
That's my bad. I thought that he'd already done that with.
They've agreed. They've agreed.
When he met with Moon the last time, I thought that they had actually come up with.
Well,
supposedly, the end of the Korean War.
Yes, supposedly, and that was one of the purposes of the summit. They were going to sit down and sign that document. But the other story we're being given is the meeting went so well it extended in, and they signed a series of statements. But no, there is nothing yet that suggests that the document is, aside from the armistice ceasefire. Okay, they still haven't said, "Yep, that's it officially now." Okay, the war is over, reparations, but in theory, that was the give and take of we're sending back the remains of the POWs, and we'll make reparations.
I think that that's important to the people, whatever are left of the people from the 50s.
Agreed.
That people there. I mean, I don't know how many surviving people are left that makes a difference to.
Well, but there's 6,000 plus human remains or unaccounted remains left in North Korea. That's the number from the DOD.
And I certainly don't want to denigrate that as not being important, because it is important.
I think it's hugely significant. Hopefully, in theory, that is what drives the motivation or the suggestion that in the delivering and returns of the remains, that's it. The war's over. We're ready to pay reparations and move forward. But yes,
that's part of the reason I assumed. This is something that
many are, but equally I'm looking for the signed document.
In the middle of it.
Yeah, and I'm looking for the signed document. We haven't seen it yet. That doesn't mean it's not forthcoming. Mm-hmm. Just we haven't seen it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Josh?
Okay. Now, granted, what's being said here is quite fair. There's no, ad hominem, hyperbole, red herrings going on. There's no just mindless President Trump bashing going on. Once in a while, you'll see an angry Canadian get posted in the opinion column. Seriously. I mean, Canada is about as relevant as the crap I took this morning. But I do see the point when you have sites like the National Review say, quote, "As a matter of substance, the Singapore summit achieved less than nothing. It was a profound defeat for U.S. world influence and for democratic decency, arguably the worst outcome since Yalta. Kim promised to consider denuclearization, which I said was undefined, exactly as his father and grandfather had done repeatedly over the past several decades, breaking their promises each and every time. For this puff of cotton candy, Trump agreed to halt U.S. war games, as he did call them, using North Korea. He used the North Korean term for joint military exercises with the South, which Trump himself called provocative. He invited Kim to the White House. He also issued the risible tweet announcing peace in our time. He really said that. There is no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea. So I'm just not blindly support. I'm not saying Lane is, because believe me, he and I will chirp at each other about this, when we're done.
And actually, though, this is exactly along the line of what we talked about before, Scooter.
We've got that show, of course, up on YouTube for you. You can find that link right now on social media as Last Hour is now up. We're 30 after, 30 to the top. We'll be back with more. Joshua Card and Lane Smith talking about the North Korean summit with the United States and Donald Trump. More on the Scooter McGee Show when we return.
Babies in the running around, hanging with the crowd, putting your business in the street, talking out loud, saying you bought us this and that. how much you done spent. I swear she must believe it's all heaven sent.
As America's economy has evolved, so have apprenticeships. Today, they are meeting the needs of our economy in industries such as IT, healthcare, and financial services. In fact, these modern industries are employing adult, youth, and veteran apprentices, gaining a competitive advantage and developing the next evolution of America's workforce. To learn more, visit apprenticeshipevolution.com. Sponsored by the state of Colorado and aired in cooperation with the Colorado Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is Dave Frazier from KWGN Channel 2 Pinpoint Weather. Gusty thunderstorms, some strong wind, lightning around till about 7 or 8 o'clock. Otherwise, we'll head down into about 60 degrees overnight under partly cloudy skies. We'll be in the upper 80s on Saturday with showers and thunderstorms again possible late in the day. Watch out for lightning and wind. And then Sunday, we cool into the 70s for Father's Day with a pretty good chance we will see showers and rain possible through the day.
This weather update is brought to you by North Range Behavioral Health. Visit northrange.org.
So you think the Pawn Stars are in Vegas, huh? Have you been to City National Pawn? 3301 West 10th Street in Greeley, and you're the Pawn Star. With great deals on commercial and industrial tools, electronics, smartphones, laptops, and fine jewelry. So many great deals and a constantly changing inventory guarantee you get the best deal in town at City National Pawn. Need quick cash fast? City National Pawn has got you covered there too. Monday through Friday and Saturdays, remember, you're the Pawn Star at City National Pawn, 3301 West 10th Street in Greeley.
Matt Rivette started in real estate just in time for the bottom to fall out of the market, and it turns out it was a good time to start. From day one, Matt Rivette had to do it right. Serve the client. Turn for sale into sold. 32 years later, we know market conditions will change, but Matt Rivette's commitment to you won't. This is a good time to get to know Matt Rivette at Pro Realty. List your commercial, income, or residential property with Matt Rivette. Call Matt Rivette at 970-356-1234 or go to ProRealtyHomes.com.
Last time on the Hull Show.
Zwei Brewing poll question of the day. How many wins is it going to take for Vance Joseph to secure his job next season? Some of you are saying playoffs or bust. Some are more of the mindset that it's okay, it's 8 or 9. It's a lot of pressure on this guy, but it's also going to be tough because there's a lot of pressure on this entire team. I mean, your quarterback position is uncertain, and that's also why I thought Vance Joseph kind of got a bad rap. I was shocked they didn't fire him.
This has been the Hull Show replay. For more, tune in weekdays from 11 to 1 on 1310 KFKA.
The problem with most gyms is, well, they're gyms. Double Diamond CrossFit knows what it takes to get the results you're looking for. CrossFit is high intensity, short workouts designed to improve your core and cardiovascular strength. Double Diamond CrossFit has classes throughout the day with certified coaches. You show up, warm up, and build your better body, all with the support of the CrossFit family. Double Diamond CrossFit on the corner of 59th Avenue and 10th Street in Greeley. Call 970-302-2024. And don't forget to ask how you can get a free week on us.
Cutting edge commentary from the edge of reality. The Scooter McGee Show is back on News Talk 1310 KFKA.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
Welcome back, Gotham. How long before they digitize Lindsey Buckingham out of the videos? When do you think that starts happening in music? Well, at least, I don't know how they're going to get rid of me up here at KFK. I've kind of grown here like mold. Welcome back to a Quantum News Network production of the Scooter McGee Show. We're live tonight, Friday, Take Out the Trash News Weekend. Headlines 615, 616, 617. We get to On This Day in Illuminati History. We got Greeley Stampede ticket giveaways. We got Joshua Carr joining us on the phone from South Korea. We've got Lane Smith joining us on the phone from Washington State, and we will take your calls, 877-353-1310. Welcome back, guys.
Hey there. The other thing I wanted to add from when we talked before about this, the two things that we thought that would be the win for Trump coming out of this, from his standpoint, would be getting the end of the Korean War. From China's standpoint, would be getting us out of South Korea. And what Trump gave them in exchange for this, that everybody's so upset about, is the fact we're going to stop spending millions of dollars doing military operations with South Korea that North Korea sees as, basic invasion plans or whatever like this. This is the first step towards what we talked about before. China's role in this whole thing, and I believe what China is backing Kim Jong-un to get him to do, is to get us out of there. If they want any hope in the South Seas to take over, if they ever want to take over Taiwan, the rest of the stuff, what they need is our presence out of there. And the way to get our presence out of there is to make North Korea not a threat to Japan, to Taiwan, to Okinawa, all the rest of the stuff, Guam, and they have picked the perfect present for it, because Trump has made no bones about the fact he's America first. He doesn't see spending millions of dollars overseas that could be spent at home, when we are trillions of dollars in the hole. And what I expect to see is not only, this is the first step, is we're not going to do these maneuvers with South Korea, and little by little we're going to trickle our people back. And as North Korea gives concessions, Trump will give concessions. He's a businessman. I read an excellent article by someone you don't apparently like, Crowdhammer, where he said that Trump's not a conservative or a Republican. He's a pragmatist.
I would agree with that statement. It's not that I don't like Charles Krauthammer, and again, he's now terminal at this point, and so I don't wish to speak ill of the terminal. But
he said I don't want to speak ill of him until he's dead.
Well, until after,
he still wrote an excellent article about Trump is a pragmatist.
Agreed.
Every time he comes up to a problem, he says, "How can I solve the problem?" Not what is the Republican or the Democrat problem result that's never worked. And this is, I think, what we're seeing on the world stage right now. He's going in there saying, "How can I solve the problem?" Not how would Democrats do it or how would Republicans do it, but how can I actually resolve the problem?
No, Lane is right. I'm going to back him up. I read that, and I think there's definitely truth to that. Of course, this goes way against your caller from San Francisco, Dave. This goes way against his narratives, and I have to admit, I mean no disrespect, but he was out there in the stratosphere with topics that just were, I'm not going to say wrong or bad or misleading, but it was just hard to connect this to that without bridge. We had to find a bridge of concrete reality somewhere, and this is where I'm going to say, I do agree.
I thought I was listening to an Area 51 broadcast, but I think he's dead now, right?
God rest the soul of Art Bell. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I do think he is. There was just too much verbal ball washing. I really do think so. Now, granted, I'm not also unconvinced that, if Trump's a good negotiator, okay, he very well may be playing a role of of being aloof. He may very well be doing the string and carrot technique to Kim, like what they've kind of done to past U.S. presidents, since that's in one of the 10 rules to handle dictators, written in the National Review. He very well may be playing that role, and he very well be using North Korea against China, and China and North Korea very well may be embracing the U.S. to separate themselves from China, because it's very clear that China was not happy with what North Korea was doing.
One thing that no one ever takes into consideration is the fact that Trump became a billionaire as a businessman, not as a politician. Politicians become rich by stealing everybody else's money, or taking money from It's like they say, if you make $170,000 a year and you've been in Congress for 5 years and you're suddenly worth 25, 30, 40, 50 million dollars, you're not actually making that money because you're earning it. Okay, Trump, whatever you want to say, he earned his money by earning it. Okay, and this is the guy who's going to the negotiating table instead of a politician. Politicians will do whatever somebody pays them to say, and this guy is going there trying to get a deal because that's what he's done his whole life. Whatever the deal is, the best deal for America, because it's America first, is the deal he's going to go for. And if it's not that, he's not going to go for it. He said before, I will walk away from the table in a second if it's not something that's good for America. Okay, when he walked away after 5 hours is we get 5,000 of our people back that give us some, gives finality to all those families. And we're going to go forward from here. That's not bad for 5 hours of negotiating.
No, it's not, Josh.
No, it's not bad, but what I have said earlier, there's no agreed time. I'm going to say it again because I feel like it's being overlooked here. There's no agreed time frame of denuclearization and how it will be achieved and verified. There is no agreed or shared upon common definition of what denuclearization means.
But won't that come with future meetings?
Lane and I both know the slippery slopes of contracts and whatnot here in this part of the world and how they define and interpret things. There's no guarantee for an outcome. It's just a process. So granted, yes.
But this is a process that has not been there for 70 years. Now there's finally a process, and basically we got to not be stupid, and South Korea is not going to be stupid about how they accept what they do, but at least we have a process to start talking about this. I mean, once again, like I said, this is a 5-hour meeting, and people expect so much more out of this meeting than possibly ever could have happened. This is not the end all, fix all the world problems in 5 hours with a person who is certifiably crazy in the first place and probably only being forced to do this because China's telling them to do it. So, I'm not displeased with what Trump walked away from there. I thought he actually negotiated a pretty good start, and he even said before he went in, this is not the end of it. It is the first step, and God knows how many steps it's going to take. But it's the first step. The first time we've had a open dialogue between North Korea and America in 70 years.
Josh?
No, I can't disagree with that. I don't want to disagree with that. That's true. But what I'm saying again, I'll say it again. The Korean War did not end. There was no talk about ending the armistice. Another point, there was no agreed time frame of denuclearization. This seems dog and pony. Granted, I understand it, the concept of the first step. But
But do you think Trump's never dealt with a slippery opponent before?
What's that?
Do you think Trump's never dealt with a slippery opponent before? I mean, you're assuming that he didn't walk away from this going, hey, this guy's slippery as a mackerel, whatever, So watch what he's doing.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, as I said earlier, and I think Scooter will back me up, he probably shouldn't promise so many things at the start, the get versus the give.
Yeah, that's just Donald Trump.
What's that?
That's just Donald Trump. He's kind of a boaster.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. However, but
if you also look at his first 500 days in office and what he's delivered compared to what the last 5 or 6 of presidents have delivered, it's okay to boast a little bit.
No, I get that. But what I'm saying is I'm just not too optimistic about this. Now that I've read these articles a bit more here in the Korea Herald, the Korea Times, Arirang News, Yonhap News, which, they didn't go on a bashing Trump campaign. They were quite fair about it. And
but you and I suffer from the same problem. Having lived under Korean contracts, we realize how open to interpretation they can be. No matter what the words say, they can mean something other than that. And actually, North Korean contracts are probably exactly the same. But if you and I know this, I find it really hard to believe that the people negotiating with him don't know the same thing. And if they don't, then they should hire you and I for big bucks, and I will go there and tell them how to do it.
We are pushing 47 after 13 to the top. We'll come back and we will finish up this hour. Lane Smith is joining us on the phone from great state of Washington. Joshua Carr, he is joining us from South Korea. You're listening to 1310kfk.com. Head to 1310kfk.com. Take us everywhere on the run and on the go with you in the free TuneIn app. 2-minute break from the CRP 4x4 studios. We'll be right back.
Afraid, tired, and worried by the world news these days? Come to Trinity Lutheran Church and hear the good news of God's love and your salvation. Join us every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. for a traditional service or 10:30 a.m. for a more contemporary service, and find the peace of knowing our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Several adult Bible studies are also offered at 9:20 a.m. each Sunday. Trinity Lutheran Church at 3000 35th Avenue, across from Home Depot in Greeley.
What may be junk to you just might be another man's treasure. From stamps, sports memorabilia, silverware, or old jewelry, what may be junk to you just might be another man's treasures. Located at 2002 9th Street in Greeley, Another Man's Treasures can take these old items and convert them into cold, hard cash. Located at 2002 9th Street, remember Another Man's Treasure.
So you think the Pawn Stars are in Vegas, huh? Have you been to City National Pawn? 3301 West 10th Street in Greeley, and you're the Pawn Star. With great deals on commercial and industrial tools, electronics, smartphones, laptops, and fine jewelry. So many great deals and a constantly changing inventory guarantee you get the best deal in town at City National Pawn. Need quick cash fast? City National Pawn has got you covered there too. Monday through Friday and Saturdays, remember, you're the Pawn Star at City National Pawn, 3301 West 10th Street in Greeley.
Last time on the Hull Show.
Zwei Brewing poll question of the day. How many wins is it going to take for Vance Joseph to secure his job next season? Some of you are saying playoffs or bust. Some are more of the mindset that it's okay, it's 8 or 9. It's a lot of pressure on this guy, but it's also going to be tough because there's a lot of pressure on this entire team. I mean, your quarterback position is uncertain, and that's also why I thought Vance Joseph kind of got a bad rap. I was shocked they didn't fire him.
This has been the Hull Show replay. For more, tune in weekdays from 11 to 1 on 1310 KFKA. Cutting-edge commentary from the edge of reality. The Scooter McGee Show is back on News Talk 1310 KFKA.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Hi, this is Dane Alexander. You are listening to Scooter McGee on News Talk KFKA 1310.
Relax, don't you rest when you want to go to rest. Relax, don't you rest when you want to go.
Welcome back, Gotham. Relax. A third and final hour still yet to come of a Quantum News Network production of the Scooter McGee Show. Very special thanks to Joshua Card, taking time out for his busy schedule, spending so much time with us up here tonight in northern Colorado. Welcome back, Josh. Welcome back, Lane Smith. He's joining us from Washington. Josh, we've really taken up way too much of your time, and we want to say thank you very much. How about we let you wrap it up, and we'll have you sign off, and we'll continue the conversation with Lane here to the top of the hour.
Okay. Well, again, this is your show, Scooter, so thanks for taking time to
I
have
am
a
merely
show.
the steward of the airwaves. It's not my show. I'm the steward, and this is the people's airwaves, and you're doing a great job.
I'm going to have to. I have to stand by Dave a little bit on some of the things he said regarding dictatorships and
his references to Catch-22.
I'm going to look into that book he mentioned, Origins, and granted, we did go out into the stratosphere of topics. I think if we had more time and a bit more leads, we could connect the dots in this. I'm not too sure how how much information Lane got on his call, and the deals that Dave mentioned regarding him and Dick Morris, who actually I kind of like Dick Morris. He's a good writer, and their connection with Dick Cheney. And I'd be curious to see what Lane had to say on that, but that's another time. But again, I'm done. Thanks for having me on. And I had a bunch of more information, but at this point, it's just kind of moot. And Lane's right. We're going to have, this is a process, and we got to see what's going to happen next. And from the reporters here in South Korea, the bottom line is there's no vitriol or there's no Trump bashing. I think they've been quite fair and objective on this, on what's going on. Now, granted, as I said either last week or the week before, South Korea should take a bit more responsibility on this because they have failed to negotiate. It's 70 years they have failed to negotiate a peace. And why is that? Because they have been living under the protective umbrella of the United States. And what does that lead into? The military-industrial complex. Someone's making money. So I'll leave it at that. And thanks for having me on, Scooter.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joshua. Thoughts, Lane?
Actually, I agree with Josh to a great extent there. The problem, and this is the problem that North Korea is going to have now, since they've got to this point. This is, once you open Pandora's box, you can never get it closed again.
Amen to
and
that.
this is a country where if you even watch a South Korean DVD, you could be murdered or sent to a re-education camp or something like this. I mean, at this point, they're looking at a possibility of joining the real world. And when they join the real world, the people there are going to find out that their dear leader isn't God, and they're in hell. And basically, at that point, it's up to China and South Korea to try to bring them up to be at least a third world country. Right now, I mean, like I said before, when I was there, they told us every year that somewhere between 30 and 50,000 people a year died of starvation or freezing in the winter. They sent boatloads of rice to North Korea, and Kim Jong-il, when I was there, sold them. And he fed his troops with part of it, and he sold the rest for cash because they have no cash, because nobody would deal with them. The only person that buys their stuff was China. I mean, they have always danced to the tune of China. And I know you've asked before about Russia and stuff like that, and I think Russia may be a buffer against China, but Russia has very little to do with what's actually going on in North Korea.
In the political sense.
The north border of it.
Right, in the political sense. So what you're saying, China being the driver politically for North Korea.
Right. I mean, they're a border up there, and they're supposedly all comrades or whatever like this. But, if you're from North Korea and you try to go to Russia, you get shot, just like if you try to go to South Korea.
Right.
I mean, and actually, China, when this whole thing started, they put like 250,000 troops on the border between China and North Korea because they were afraid so many North Koreans would escape into China when Rocket Man and Trump were doing their tweets back and forth.
Their tweets, yeah.
So, I mean, the world's a safer place right now than it was a couple of weeks ago. It doesn't mean all the problems of the world are solved. It just means it's, like I said, and what Trump said, this is the first of many meetings, first of many steps. But you have to start the first step. I mean, what is the old saying? A journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step.
the first step, yes.
Right. If you don't make the first step, then there's no journey. And when you and I talked before, basically what I said is if they walked out of this with, kind of an end to the Korean War, and Josh may be right, they may not have signed papers or whatever, but you got to admit at this point, the Korean War is over. I mean, he's sitting there hugging the South Korean guy. They're returning our troops, this kind of stuff. I mean, what's the odds we're going to go back to war again with North Korea? Nothing. So the war is basically over.
No, but
He got
Dave
that-
brings
if he
Dave's.
got that was a positive thing. And actually, what he got was more than that. What he got was we got back 5,000 people that they already know who they are. I mean, these are 5,000 identifiable remains.
Right.
That are returned, and they're going to give those families closure. And I'm just thankful that I'm not one of those people that has to have that as closure.
Yeah, no amen to that. And yes, I believe it's going to be significant turn here in the West as how the media treats Trump when suddenly the last of the remains. And again, I don't believe there should be parliamentary or a pageantry or procedure or visits to the White House or Dover or any of that. We don't need any of that. It's just to the family, out go the chaplain and the officers, and they show up at the house, and here's your loved ones.
With a media that is 90% negative on Trump, what do you think the odds he's going to get any bonus out of this whatsoever?
My point of that is the point of contention on that is that I think that will actually crack the shell of, quote, fake news, and the American public will finally see it won't matter what Trump does, they're going to attack him. When Jesus on a popsicle stick, he just got the remains back of the family, and you're attacking him, you should be going and interviewing the families because there won't be one. How long were you an anti-Trumper? I was a never-Trumper up until this morning when the chaplain knocked on my door and gave me back my grandfather's remains.
Yeah. Actually, Trump was never my pick, but anybody was better than Hillary. I was part of anybody but the Hillary crowd.
I agree. That's exactly the camp I was in.
I would take a dead frog flattened on a back street in South Carolina before I would take Hillary. I would vote for that. And so, I mean, he's not particularly my man, but on the other hand, I can't complain with what he's done. He's gone in there because he's not a politician, and he's done what not politicians do, which in this particular case is get things done.
And he's got all the politicians upset. Lane, thanks for the call and chiming in on the discussion tonight. 877-353-1310. We're going to go to the top of the hour, get the news, and when we come back, a third and final hour, all the Take Out the Trash news headlines coming up next. A preview can be seen over at 1310kfk.com on my social media feeds via Twitter or Facebook. And again, hour one of the show already up. We'll get hour two up here in this in the top break. And when we come back, on this day in Illuminati history, guys, flip a coin. I wanted to do the giveaways in the 10 o'clock hour, 10:30 for Stampede. But if we want to do them, we'll do them. Fair enough. Top of the hour, I'm going to go out for a Coke and a smoke, and we will be back for hour three from the CRP 4x4 studios of the Scooter McGee Show right here on 1310 KFKA. Fair enough? All right, good. Stand by.